We should harvest organs from the dead. At least, that's what James Delaney and David Hirschnov argue in their paper, Why Consent May Not Be Needed for Organ Procurement. Thousands of people are currently on the waitlist to receive an organ, and thousands more are dying each year due to the scarcity of available organs. But surely, you might think, that wouldn't justify taking organs from the dead without their previous consent. Delaney and Hirschnov aren't convinced. They ask you to imagine the following scenario. While you're visiting a cemetery, lightning strikes and you become surrounded by a fire. The only way for you to survive is to hide in a nearby mausoleum and use the corpse inside to protect yourself from the fire. However, you know that the deceased person had requested that his corpse be left undisturbed, no matter how good the consequences would be if someone used any part of his body. Is it morally permissible for you to use the man's corpse against his previous wishes in order to save yourself from the fire? If you think yes, then maybe you want to change your mind about harvesting organs from the deceased. Delaney and Hirschnov claim that using the corpse to save your life at the cemetery is no different from using the organs of the deceased to save those waiting for a life-saving organ transplant. In both cases, bodies of the deceased are used to save the living from death. And it's already common to use the deceased in ways which many think are morally justifiable. Suppose that the government needs to carry out an autopsy in order to solve a crime. Normally we think that such mandatory autopsies are morally permissible precisely because there is a justifiable reason to disturb the corpse. Likewise, saving lives by taking organs from the dead to give to those who would otherwise die waiting for an organ transplant seems like a perfectly justifiable reason to take organs from the dead. I imagine your initial response is that taking organs from the dead against their wishes is wrong because it harms them. Perhaps it violates their consent or frustrates their interests. But that sort of response only works if there is someone to be harmed in the first place. Citing the ancient philosopher Epicurus, Delaney and Hirschnov argue that a person no longer exists once she dies. Surely, by using the corpse to protect yourself from the fire doesn't harm the corpse. In that case, no one is there to be harmed. In the same way, when you harvest someone's organs against their previous wishes, it cannot be a harm to them, the person who used to be alive. I can't, for instance, thwart the interests of inanimate objects precisely because inanimate objects are not the sort of things which can have interests. In the same way, a corpse is not the sort of thing which can have an interest. So, if Delaney and Hirschnov are right, then taking organs from the dead, even against their previous wishes, might be one way to help the thousands of people waiting for a life-saving organ transplant. Thank you for watching 5 Minute Ethics. Please like and subscribe.